Hi, I'm Ron Timmermans, one of the many hosts for the Florida Aviation Network, and welcome back to the second segment of Plane Time. It's been my pleasure during the first segment to host Mr. Ben Coleman, a renowned aviation mechanic and pilot, and have him share with us some of his insights on what it takes to become an aviation mechanic and a better pilot and fly and operate aircraft safely. Ben, thank you for coming back again. It's good to have you. We've learned a lot there in the first segment, and I'm sure there's more to learn in the next segment as you restart your presentation again.
It's a pleasure to be back here with you, and there's so much to talk about. So much to talk about, Ron.
Indeed. But before we get to that, I wanted to mention that I want you to stay tuned, because after Ben's completion of Ben's interview, we have two more special guests. One is Mr. Brandon Gardner from the Orlando area, and he's going to show us and tell us how easy and safe it is to fly to the Bahamas. And so he's got some great experiences and some tips for you and me to make the trip across the water to the Bahamas and enjoy that great country. And then following that, Dr. George Bartuska, who has been a long-time participant in these Florida Aviation Network broadcasts, he's going to talk to us about a current contemporary topic, hurricanes. And as you know, we're in hurricane season now, and so it'll be an appropriate topic for that. But back to our first guest, Ben Coleman. We did the first 30 minutes of interview with him. We learned a little bit about Ben, how he got his start in flying. He was born into an aviation family. His daddy had a Piper Cub, and that was his introduction to aviation as a young lad. And then he went to school and worked for Lockheed, and worked for several other companies and the like. Worked for the NTSB, worked for Piper Aircraft. A fascinating career, but Ben, thank you for joining us again, coming back. I'm glad you came back after the break, otherwise there'd be a long dramatic pause here. But it's good to have you and to learn more about you. And your purpose, of course, as we mentioned earlier, was to hopefully inspire young people to, if they want to go into aviation maintenance, to do everything they can, to learn everything they can, and also to do everything they can to the best of their ability, whether that's aviation maintenance, piloting, or some other career. So Ben, what do you think after 30 minutes? Is there more to your life, I would imagine?
Oh, just about 2 or 3 little spots, but it has been a good career. It has been a challenging career, but it all starts with maintenance. And there's proper maintenance, and there's improper maintenance. And if you notice on the slide now, is maintenance has given me the opportunity to work for 2 outstanding organizations in our federal government. And you know, I'm not a big government guy. However, these 2 organizations are instrumental in giving us the standards to stay safe. And it's just the standards. And people would, when I was with the FAA, they would say, Ben, why don't the FAA require us to do this, this, and this? And I said, be careful what you wish for, because they can do that. But there's nothing to prevent you from requiring yourself to do this, 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 and this. As you know, personal minimums, you talk about that quite a bit. And we have got to be aware of the standards and all the blood that has been spilled to write those regulations that we trust and adhere to so vital. And it's just a standard. It's the rule, but it gives you parameters of what you should and shouldn't do. Can I do it? Sure. Should I do it? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
But go ahead, Ron. Aviation airworthiness is the key.
And how do you mean? What do you mean by that? Airworthiness is the key.
Airworthiness. If the airplane isn't exactly the way it should be, and you learn the wrong way, you're going to do it the wrong way. The law of primacy. And I do want to be a flight instructor someday, if I'm so fortunate to make it there. But airworthy is, up until recently, it didn't even have its own definition. Do you know the definition of airworthy, Ron?
I think I remember, Ben, it has to do with the aircraft meeting the type design, meaning the design to which it was manufactured, the standard to which it was manufactured. And let's see, the other reason for airworthiness, or the other is what?
Condition
Condition of flight
for safe operation.
for safe operation, of course, that would make sense. So
Yeah.
in other words, we do that on a pre-flight.
Sure.
We make determination that the airplane is in a condition for safe flight.
I'm really proud that you came up with that on your own. I didn't have to coach you at all.
I'm pretty pleased as well.
But again, it's very simple. Maintaining an aircraft in airworthy condition is one of the easiest things in the world to do.
It is.
It's also, yeah, it's easy because it's just two things: meets its type design, condition for safe operation.
Well, I certainly understand the condition for safe operation because that's something most pilots, and for certainly I do before a flight, and I do a thorough walk around and make sure that I check things and make sure that it's in a condition for safe operation. But how do we assure that the airplane meets its type design?
It takes a little bit of ingenuity and intuitive sense of basically what do you think that it looked like when it came out of the factory, when it met its type design, when it met the blueprints. And if you think about type design, you can supplement that word type design with blueprint. Imagine what the blueprint looks like for a wingtip on a Cessna 172. And do you think coming out of the factory, the wingtip of one Cessna 172 had a crack in it about 1.5 inches long?
I would hope not.
Okay, then therefore if it has a crack in it, it may not meet its type design. So the crack has to be, you go into the maintenance manual, and if the maintenance manual says you are permitted to have a crack 1.5 inches emanating from that fastener, okay, you're good. If it says you can have a crack 1/4 inch, and this has already progressed to 1.5 inches, what do you think is going to happen eventually, Ron?
Well, that part may rapidly disassemble.
It may depart the aircraft, yeah. And we don't like things falling off airplanes. So we address it, we do the crack criteria, and we address it properly. There's a proper repair for it. One of the repairs may be to replace the wingtip fairing. How much does the wingtip fairing cost for a Cessna 172?
I have no idea.
It's in the thousands of dollars.
Wow, even though it's a piece of plastic.
Piece of plastic, $1,000. And there's a lot of people that don't have $1,000 trying to maintain the air. Well, can't we put some duct tape on it? Well, sure you can. It's not going to pull it out of the sky, but it's not the right way to do the repair.
So it's worth doing it right rather than just making a repair to fix it for the moment.
You have to always strive to at least try to do it the right way. And that's the difference between a real pro and somebody that's just an amateur that's trying to act like a pro. And it's sharing with the owner-operators that, okay, this is the way it should be, but it's going to take this to get it there. And they've got to make a decision. And then you got to make a decision if you're going to put your Ron Timmermans on it, and it falls out of the sky, and Ron Timmerman said that the aircraft was safe to fly.
Yeah.
And
so this is really important for mechanics then, and you've actually taught mechanics and helped train them, right?
Correct.
So it's been your desire then to instill in them not just fix it for the purposes of getting it back into the air, but fixing it so that it's done correctly and safely and within the type design.
And meets the standards of the term airworthy, literally.
Airworthy, yeah.
And it's just, and also another thing as far as,
is there a checklist or something that you could use?
well, one of the most rewarding positions I had with the FAA was the safety program. And we did at the safety program have what we called a PACE program, Pilot and Aircraft Courtesy Evaluation. Very labor intensive, but very, very effective to help the owner operators interact with the FAA in a non-confrontational situation. And again, the FAA, they're not there to take your certificate. They will if they have to, if that's what it's going to take to keep you safe. It's still not going to keep you out of the sky. People fly without a certificate all the time. But the whole thing about our whole industry is established on honesty and integrity. And if you don't have honesty or an integrity, we really don't want you in this business. I hate to say it. Sorry. you work on cars, bicycles, you still have to maintain a certain amount there, but you have got to be honest. If I told you, Ron, that here's a logbook, here's an aircraft you're going to buy, and Ron, 99% of all the entries in this logbook are legitimate and the truth.
Just 99% of them.
99% is honest.
Is that good enough, or should it be better?
Well, it depends. What is that 1% that's a lie? And if you put a lie in maintenance records in an aircraft, I'm sorry, that is fraud on the worst degree.
Yeah, and not only is it fraud, what would you think if you rented this airplane that had that 1% error in it, and were taking your family on it? How would you feel about that? So this is a tough decision for aviators to make sure that the aircraft that they're about to fly and take their family members in is in fact airworthy by the strictest definition of the term, meets the type design, and is in a condition for airworthiness. What we have to go on, of course, is the logbooks. And so we're then, I guess, limited by the integrity of the mechanics that have been signing the logbooks. And have they done everything that they're supposed to and put their name to it, assuring that it's an airworthy condition?
Well, it's in the condition for safe operation, the other two-pronged approach of airworthy is meets its in condition for safe operation. Think wear, and is it worn or worn out? Because everything wears to a degree, even paint wears. But is it worn out?
Yeah.
And that's why you get into the maintenance procedures and the structural repair manuals, and you see how much you're allowed to go in that worn category.
Yeah. Important.
Tires, perfect example. Tires, every time you use a tire on an asphalt runway, it wears a little bit. Eventually, they wear out. So the pilot may have to make the determination, because mechanics aren't around all the time, is this worn or worn out? It doesn't look like it used to. What happened to all of my tread? And actually the groove in the tire is actually a wear indicator.
Yeah.
You did know that?
I did, yes.
Okay. So when it gets down to the bottom of that wear indicator, can you still fly it? Maybe. Can you do it? Is it safe condition for operation? Maybe. But when you know that you add about 1/4 of an inch of rubber on that tire, it's going to give you more meat for that high speed turn off, having to get on the binders a little bit more, and you don't want to bullseye a tire.
Yeah.
Bullseye a tire. Have you ever bullseyed a tire?
No, I haven't.
It's ugly.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
ugly.
I'm sure. Well, Ben, you mentioned the PACE program and a checklist that you came up with. I think we got a shot of that on the screen
Yeah,
now.
we
Tell us
do.
just a bit about that.
Well, Ron, do you remember way back when you were, this is right after the Wright brothers, of course, flew. But
I'm not that old, Ben, but go ahead.
But when you were learning how to fly, what were you told the acronym for determining the airworthiness of an aircraft?
I don't remember the acronym.
You remember ARROW? Anybody remember ARROW?
Oh, yeah, I do remember that one.
Okay, that's simple. So people go in to rent an airplane, okay, ARROW. I've got my airworthiness certificate, radio operating license, registration, operation manual, and weight and balance. I'm good to go. Not so easy, not so fast. Because ARROW is actually Iraq Sa'ivi Satsafi, is the new acronym.
That's easy for you to say, but
Just rolls right off the tongue.
yeah.
Iraq Sa'ivi Satsafi.
Okay. Tell us what that means, Ben, because we're not going to remember that, and I can't possibly write it down.
Let me break that down to you. Iraq, okay, of course you got your airworthiness certificate and your registration, radio operating permit, flight manual, and so forth. But now a current listing of airworthiness directives, including the time of the next reoccurring requirement. Nobody ever told me when I went to rent an airplane that I had to check and make sure all the ADs were complied with. That's what the people that own the aircraft are supposed to do, isn't it? But who's responsible for it?
Pilot in command.
Pilot in command. So, and I could go down through all the rest of this, but I encourage you to pull it up yourself. Compass deviation card. The FAA just love to do ramp inspections and find a compass deviation card missing. Oh, got to ground your airplane. Why? Compass deviation card's missing. Damn it. But it's something so simple, yet it's required. And radio's on or off. If that little car didn't check radio's on or radio's off, it's not meeting the letter of the standard, the regulation. We could go through all of the rest of that, but
Well, that's all right, but the checklist is available, what, on the FAA website, I would
it
imagine?
is.
Okay.
That was the original, by the way. They've tweaked it a little bit since I left. They didn't want to have my name not being with the FAA anymore.
I understand. But anyway,
So-
it's a good, valuable resource for pilots.
But just go to your airworthiness certificate, and it's printed right there of what the definition of airworthy is.
This is the document that's in the airplane, the airworthiness certificate that's
Correct.
required to be in the airplane.
And some kind inspector has even gone and pulled out the regulation in Part 21 that talks about type certificate or type design.
Uh-huh.
And it's really quite simple, but it's very, very difficult to do because you've got to wind up throwing money at it. But if you don't know what is right, how do you ever know if you're going to achieve it being right?
Right. You got a standard. You need to know
you
what it
gotta-
takes to meet it and then achieve that.
The integrity to hold it out, and the physical ability. Some folks just don't have the physical dexterity to get in and tweak. You have to have sometimes eyeballs on the end of your finger to get behind and put that nut right behind the panel. I can barely touch it. How am I supposed to get that nut off to get this off?
Yeah.
It takes some physical dexterity and not big meat hooks like this to get through inspection panels.
Yeah.
So women in aviation, God love them. I tell you, if it wasn't for some of the delicate movements, and some of the ladies have much smaller arms, they're able to get in and able to do a lot of functions that would be very difficult for a dude to do. So I tell you, and the ladies make great pilots. I mean,
do.
everything is based up on he this, he that, but I always bring up, oh, how about the she's? You know, because ladies make good pilots, they do.
Well, good.
Attention to detail.
Indeed. Whoa. Looks like you're in California here, Mojave.
Again, my maintenance background has taken me to some really interesting things. We haven't even talked about the Middle East yet.
Okay. Well, let's go on.
But here, I had the opportunity to work out of the, it's called the Rotary Rocket Hangar at Mojave, where we put together a GA-10, 10-passenger turboprop air van. And if you're not,
Who's that guy?
Anybody know who the sheriff is of Polk County?
Grady.
Oh, Grady, he was at a fundraising event, and I asked him to arrest me, and he said, he said, well, why? He says, because I've been a bad, bad boy, and so he cuffed me, and we had some fun.
All right.
He didn't let me have the keys to those cuffs. That's the problem, but
So the joke was on you.
it was.
All right.
And
Now you've changed to rotary wing here in this slide, Ben.
Well,
What's
that was-
happening here?
Department of State, after I left NTSB, after I left Comtran, went through the FAA career, FAA safety program, came out of the FAA, and then went to the Department of State Air Wing. I was a safety officer for a helicopter unit in Iraq. That was an interesting period of time.
That was when, in the 2010 timeframe?
2010.
So it was after the invasion and during the trying to...
It was after, I think you spent some time over there earlier,
Yeah.
but it was afterwards, right towards the end, and it was, we need to have a cup of coffee over that someday, because there's a lot to discuss, a lot going on over there. But this was the air van that we had up on floats in Anchorage, and I was the only employee that had a seaplane rating.
And Airvan was the one that was owned by an Indian firm, but the aircraft was built in Australia?
Produced in Morwell, Australia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this one was an amphib that we see in the picture here.
Yep.
Is that you on the?
That's me doing a pre-flight.
Okay.
And if you notice, the pre-flight's being done in a hangar. That's for a very good reason, because it was cold outside.
Yeah.
And but that was a very interesting trip, interesting airplane. That was a fuel stop. And
Did you have to fuel yourself?
I did. That was self-fuel. There was nobody around. If you noticed the ramp, we just finished getting stuck in a snowbank and had to dig out with a shovel. But you haven't lived till you fueled an airplane in 10 degrees.
I'll bet.
So see, being a mechanic got me to that spot of being able to fuel an airplane in 10 degrees.
I'm not sure that's an incentive for people to become a mechanic, Ben, but I guess it is part of the reality of becoming a mechanic. You do whatever you have to do.
It is totally. But
Yeah.
it's, Ron, we could talk for hours on the airworthiness aspect. And again, this airplane was no different. However, it was experimental airplane.
Oh, it was, okay.
Because it wasn't certified on those floats yet. So we'll press on and,
Well, this is good. I want to see that video of another airplane flying.
Okay, let's
This is back
do
into
that.
your home drome at,
this
it's called
is,
the Green Swamp, is it?
This is the Green Swamp. This is, Melody and I have a Citabria, and we use that in conjunction with
Slip, slip, slip. Kick it around with the rudder, line up with the runway.
kick it around and
Touchdown.
3 points. I'd have to give myself maybe a 9 or 10 on that touchdown.
Looked pretty good to me. And the airplane's reusable, right?
You could, and it flies again.
Yes.
There is diversity, and one of these days I'm going to find out when I grow up, what I really want to do in life.
Okay.
But we have a weed harvesting business now, Coleman Aero Marine. And if you notice, the weed harvester almost matches the airplane.
Uh-huh.
And we offer aerial surveillance of your weed-infested pond or lake or stream. And we can take a video or a still of it, and then we can go and actually get the weeds out for you. So,
All right. So that's a shameless plug for Coleman Aero Marine.
never a dull moment.
I can imagine
Never a
that.
dull moment.
And this is at the world headquarters of Coleman Aero Marine.
It is at
Okay.
the Green Swamp International Airport.
All right. That's good.
But Ron, getting back now, you're getting me sidetracked. You're getting me
know.
off topic here.
Yeah, well, we're going to wrap it up here
Airworthiness.
pretty soon. We got just a few minutes left.
That is probably the most airworthy Citabria in the world because all I do is work on it. And but it is in great shape, and it does meet its type design, and it is in a condition for safe operation.
That's great. That's what you want.
The pilot aspect of it, I really encourage everybody to get their maintenance rating if they can. Sometimes it's hard to get, but always learn as much as you can. There's only one time you can know too much about the airplane that you're flying. That's when it's on fire.
Oh,
That's
okay.
too much information. Something bad's going to happen if it's
Yeah.
on fire. But let's keep the fire where it belongs, in the cylinders, in the combustion chamber of the cylinders, or if you're flying a turbine, coming out the tailpipe. That's where you want the fire to go, progress through the engine. But maintenance is really where it's at. I mean, we don't want to let people know that it's fun and it's easy to fly airplanes. It's the decisions that you have to make that makes flying difficult. And
Challenging.
it can be very difficult, very much of a challenge, but you've got to know what your limitations are, and both in maintenance and in operations. And even driving a car, you got to know what your limitations are. Riding a bicycle, you can hurt yourself. You can get killed riding a bicycle. More people are killed and slip and falls out of bathtubs than there are in aviation. So, and again, we are a sliver of the population.
We are.
Just
Indeed.
a sliver. So I don't know how we're doing on time, Ron. But
We're about time to wrap it up, I think. So we got 5 minutes left. So Ben, there's more things on your career that you wanted to cover. Is that in on slides, or do you have more?
I think that's about it.
Oh, there's the twin engine.
That's a delivery here recently. That's a Technim P2006T.
Twin engine aircraft powered by Rotax engines, as I recall.
100 horsepower Rotax on each side, about 4.5 gallons an hour.
Wow.
And it's a cute little airplane. It's fun to fly.
What speed do you get out of it?
135, 140 knots.
Okay. And it fits 4 people, or?
You can put 4 people in it. And as a matter of fact, when I was talking to you on the way up to Oshkosh, We only had 2 people, but we had a lot of stuff. I wound up being the mule to go to Oshkosh. How do we get this up there? Throw it in the twin. Ben will take it. Throw it in the twin. Ben will take it. Well, the twin was heavy.
Yeah.
We were at gross weight, weren't we?
Still
Yes.
within the limits.
We
Got it.
were right at gross weight when we took off. But
Yeah.
it'll haul a lot, flies good, and it will last a long time.
You know, interesting enough, we talk about gross weight. I had a client that I flew with recently that he was brand new to the airplane. I was helping with transition training. His insurance requirement said that he had to do so many hours of dual instruction, so many landings and the like, and 1 flight at or within 10% of gross weight. That's the first time I'd seen that in an insurance requirement. But I thought, no, that's an interesting thing to have because the airplanes feel different when they're close to gross weight rather than it's just 1 or 2 people in the airplane. And it's important, I think, for people to know that what the feel is like when you're at gross weight or nearly at gross weight. That also helps you understand how easy it is to go over gross weight.
It is, and the aircraft will fly.
Yeah,
It's just different.
yeah, indeed.
And the the funny thing about operation of an aircraft and requirements for what to do with the gross weight situation is also landing aircraft downwind. That's something that folks very, very seldom do they practice.
Yeah,
And before I die, the landing checklist will be renamed the go-around checklist.
the go-around checklist, yeah.
You only land if everything lines up.
Yeah.
But until you're established and you're over the numbers, everything feels good, I'm not landing.
Yeah.
I'm going around.
Yeah, we should always be spring-loaded for that. Same way when doing an instrument approach, you should also always be spring-loaded for the missed approach, the go-around missed approach. And if that doesn't work out, well, okay, I guess my other option is to land. Hooray!
Ron, let me put you on the spot.
As you've been doing quite well so far today.
When's the last time you've gone out in your Bonanza and landed downwind?
I don't. I haven't. But it's probably a good thing to practice.
When are you going to do it?
Well, not on the next flight, but I probably should do it before too long.
Pick out a lazy airport that
Yeah.
not much traffic,
Right.
and land against the grain.
Yeah.
And you'll be
Get the feel
amazed
for that.
of what real estate,
Yeah.
how much real estate you
Yeah.
have.
Okay, well, Ben, this has been fascinating. We've been listening and talking with Ben Coleman, a very experienced aviation mechanic, ANPIA, as well as an experienced pilot, an incredibly vast and interesting career. And he's wanted to share with you what it has been to him, a life in aviation and aviation maintenance. And if there's some takeaways, I think I was looking at what Ben talked about. I think here are some important things for you and me to understand from Ben's experience that you and I can apply to our lives if we're going to become an aviation mechanic or be a pilot or whatever we're going to do in life. Ben says, among other things, offer to help with anything and everything. That's how you learn things. You get better at what you're doing by doing things, and if you see something that needs to be done, ask to do it if you haven't already. And if you're asked to help, don't let them down or stand them up. Follow through with what you've said you would do. Look for things to do so that you can help other people and learn as a function of doing it. Find something you enjoy and doing it. Ben certainly has done that in his experience in life. He found a niche in aviation and in maintenance, and he certainly exploited that to the maximum. Ben says, work hard to accomplish your dreams and desires, and don't be lazy. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do something. Take care of your health, which is an important thing for all of us, of course. And then keep your standards high and do the right thing. When, Ben?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time, always.
Do the right thing.
We've upped our standards, so you should up yours.
Indeed. Ben, it has been a delight for me to be in this seat and have you as my interviewee in this seat. I've learned a lot about you and about your fabulous career in aviation. I'm delighted that we've been able to share that with our audience.